When you finally choose yourself, the whole world shifts. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where today we explore what happens when you finally stop betraying yourself to please others. When you choose yourself, the entire energy of your life begins to shift. People, opportunities, and even challenges start to align with your true path. This is not selfishness, it's self-realization. So as you listen, ask yourself, have I truly chosen myself yet? Comment below with, I choose my peace. If you're ready to honor your authentic self and step into a life that reflects your deepest truth. 1. Choosing yourself is the most important decision you'll ever make. Most people spend their entire lives trying to please others, parents, society, and invisible audiences that exist only in their minds, without realizing that the greatest act of love is choosing themselves. To choose yourself means to stop performing, to stop chasing validation, and to finally live in alignment with your truth. This is where spirituality begins, when you no longer sacrifice your inner peace for external approval. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And that's exactly what happens when you make the decision to honor your authentic self instead of the roles you were taught to play. You begin to reclaim the energy you once gave away in guilt, fear, and endless compromise. And that energy becomes the foundation of your awakening. Choosing yourself does not mean rejecting others. It means rejecting the version of you that exists only to be liked. It's the moment you stop asking for permission to exist and start living from the center of your being. You begin to listen to your intuition instead of the noise around you. You learn to say no without explanation, to rest without guilt, to speak your truth without trembling. At first, it feels uncomfortable because your nervous system has been trained to equate peace with danger. But each time you choose yourself, you retrain your soul to feel safe in its authenticity. This is the heart of spiritual awakening, reclaiming the power to be real, even when it costs you comfort. Carl Jung's concept of individuation explains this beautifully. Your soul's purpose is to become whole, not perfect. Wholeness means embracing both your light and your shadow, recognizing that the parts you've rejected are also part of your divine design. When you accept your flaws with compassion, you stop fighting yourself and start flowing with life. And as you align with your truth, the outer world mirrors that transformation. The right people appear, not because you chase them, but because your energy has shifted. The right opportunities unfold because you've stopped resisting what you were meant to do. The world adjusts to the vibration of someone who has chosen themselves, because authenticity has a frequency that cannot be ignored. The practice begins in small, sacred moments. When you choose rest over constant productivity, when you walk away from what drains your spirit, when you speak, even if your voice shakes, you are declaring to the universe, I matter. These daily acts of self-loyalty are not selfish. They are spiritual rituals that align you with divine truth. Over time, your inner world becomes peaceful, grounded, and self-assured. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop explaining and start embodying. You begin to feel what true freedom is, the quiet confidence of knowing that your life belongs to you. And when you reach that place, the whole world shifts, not because it changed, but because you did. This is spirituality in motion. the living proof that choosing yourself is the most important decision you will ever make. Comment below, "I choose myself today," if you're ready to honor your worth and step fully into your power. Let this simple declaration remind you that every moment you choose yourself, the universe begins to shift in your favor. 2. Authenticity brings inner peace and ends the inner war. When you stop performing and start honoring the truth of who you are, something powerful begins to unfold inside you. The war between your mind and your soul starts to quiet. The voice that once demanded you to be more, to do more, to please more, slowly fades into the background. You stop living to meet expectations and begin living to meet your essence. True peace does not come from fixing every problem, but from releasing the resistance that keeps you fighting life itself. You begin to realize that peace is not a reward waiting at the end of achievement. It is the natural rhythm of a heart aligned with authenticity. When you accept yourself fully, you no longer chase approval like a shadow. You breathe easier, move slower, and see life with clearer eyes. As you walk this path, your spirituality deepens. You stop seeing the world as something to conquer and start experiencing it as something to harmonize with. You learn that spirituality is not found in temples or rituals alone, but in the courage to live truthfully every single day. Each time you honor your feelings, you strengthen the bridge between your inner truth and your outer expression. That bridge becomes unshakable, allowing you to face criticism or uncertainty without collapsing into self-doubt. You no longer fear rejection because you have stopped rejecting yourself. You no longer crave validation because you have remembered your own worth. Living authentically does not mean life becomes effortless. It means you stop wasting energy pretending. When you say yes, only when you mean it, and no, when your soul whispers no, you reclaim the energy once lost to self-betrayal. That energy transforms into clarity, creativity, and quiet confidence. You begin to attract people and opportunities that resonate with your vibration, and naturally, those that drain you begin to fall away. This is not loss, it is liberation. The more you align your choices with your truth, the lighter your life feels. Every authentic act becomes a step toward wholeness. Through this journey, spiritual development becomes the foundation of your strength. You no longer seek peace outside of yourself because you recognize it as your natural state. You understand that spirituality is not about escaping reality, but embracing it with full presence and compassion. Challenges still arise, but you no longer meet them with panic. You meet them with awareness. Every storm becomes a teacher, every wound a doorway to wisdom. You realize that authenticity and spirituality are inseparable, one reveals the other. And as you grow in truth, life responds differently. The people around you sense your calm energy and adjust to it. The world stops feeling like a battlefield and begins to feel like a sacred mirror reflecting your inner state. This is the quiet revolution of the soul. No drama, no noise, only the steady glow of someone who has remembered who they are. The real transformation was never about becoming something new, but about returning to the person you were before the world taught you to hide. When you live this way, peace is no longer a distant goal. It becomes your daily experience. Authenticity ends the inner war because it unites every fragmented part of you into harmony, where your thoughts, emotions, and actions move as one. Are you ready to live in alignment with your true self? If so, take this moment to affirm your peace. Comment below, "I choose authenticity," to declare your commitment to ending the inner war and embracing the calm that comes from living in truth. 3. Choosing yourself disrupts the status quo. When you finally choose yourself, you disrupt the illusion that the world has built around you. Your authenticity shakes the ground of those still hiding behind their masks. The moment you begin living in truth, others may call you selfish, arrogant, or rebellious, not because you are wrong, but because your courage exposes their fears. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And once you've tasted the clarity of self-alignment, you cannot return to the dull comfort of conformity. You've seen too much, felt too deeply, and awakened too profoundly to ever live as a version edited for approval. People will try to pull you back into the roles you once played because your freedom threatens their control. But when you begin walking in spiritual wisdom, you realize that self-approval is far more powerful than social acceptance. This is the essence of spiritual awakening, understanding that choosing yourself isn't an act of selfishness, but an act of spiritual responsibility. You can't pour love from an empty cup. You can't bring light to the world while dimming your own. And so you stop apologizing for protecting your peace, for setting boundaries, for saying no to what drains your soul. You begin to honor your energy like sacred currency, spending it only on what aligns with your purpose. It's not an easy path. The moment you stop people-pleasing, the world grows quiet. The noise fades, and in that silence, you meet yourself. Jung reminded us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Choosing yourself is exactly that, bringing light into your unconscious, facing your shadow, and refusing to live by inherited scripts. You realize that every mask you once wore was simply fear disguised as belonging. But true belonging begins when you no longer betray yourself to fit in. When guilt arises, and it will understand that it is a sign of transformation. Guilt is the echo of your old self, resisting your new boundaries. But you are not here to please the past version of you. You are here to honor the evolved one. And as you do, relationships shift. Some people will leave, not because you failed them, but because your growth reminded them of the changes they're avoiding. Do not chase. Let them walk their path as you walk yours. The garden of your soul will bloom again with those who can breathe your new air. Your power lies in alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, words, and actions match, your presence speaks louder than your explanations. You no longer need to convince anyone of your worth because your energy declares it. That's when life begins to move differently. Doors open, synchronicities appear, and peace replaces the need for validation. The world doesn't change because you fight it. It changes because you stop fighting yourself. So when the world calls your courage rebellion, remember that chaos to them is liberation to your soul. You are not rejecting the world. You are simply returning to your essence. You are learning to live from the inside out. Every time you say no to what feels wrong, you say yes to the life that was always meant for you. As Jung said, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. And in that awakening, you realize this one sacred truth. Choosing yourself was never about leaving others behind. It was about finally coming home to who you are. If this message awakened something within you, subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more insights on how choosing yourself can transform your entire reality and challenge the world's expectations. 4. It's a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Choosing yourself is not a single decision. It is a living practice that breathes through every hour of your life. It's the art of returning again and again to what feels true, even when fear tempts you to perform for approval. Some days, it feels natural, like sunlight falling through a window. Other days, it's a quiet battle between your conditioning and your soul. As Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This privilege is not granted once it is earned daily through awareness, honesty, and the courage to stand in your own truth. To choose yourself means to commit to self-alignment every time the world asks you to compromise. It is looking in the mirror and saying, "I will not betray myself to be liked." On days when you fall back into old habits, the practice is to notice it gently and begin again. This is spirituality in motion. Real spiritual awakening is not about light alone, but about the discipline of returning to truth no matter how many times you drift away. It's the sacred act of walking yourself home, over and over, until authenticity becomes your natural rhythm. You begin to understand that spiritual growth is not found in grand moments, but in the small, often invisible ones. Choosing honesty over comfort, integrity over applause, inner peace over external validation. Each time you choose truth, your inner world shifts, and the outer world slowly rearranges to reflect it. You learn to say no without guilt, to rest without shame, and to let silence replace forced connection. These moments become the proof that you are no longer living from fear, but from alignment. There will be days when doubt returns, whispering that you are too much or not enough. On those days, remember that choosing yourself is not defiance, it's devotion. It is the quiet courage to protect your energy and honor your own boundaries. As Jung taught, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you choose yourself, you bring that unconscious loyalty to suffering into the light and transform it into conscious loyalty to truth. Over time, this daily practice rewires your entire being. Your body begins to relax into honesty. Your breath deepens when your actions match your values. Your heart softens as you stop chasing approval and start living from presence. You no longer perform, you simply are. And as your vibration stabilizes in truth, your relationships, work, and environment begin to mirror that same integrity back to you. This is not magic. It is an energetic law. The outer world always catches up to the inner one. So when the old patterns call you back to smallness, breathe, observe, and return. Forgive yourself for every moment you forget who you are. The strength lies not in never falling, but in always returning to authenticity. Choosing yourself is a spiritual awakening disguised as a daily habit, a commitment to live aligned with your soul, no matter how often the world tries to pull you off course. And each time you choose truth over performance, you reclaim a little more of your power, a little more of your peace, and a little more of the person you were always meant to become. If you've made it this far, you're clearly committed to your own growth. Comment below, "I'm practicing daily," to affirm your dedication to choosing yourself again and again every single day. 5. The result is radical transformation across your life. When you finally choose yourself, a radical transformation begins to ripple through every part of your life. The moment you stop betraying your inner truth, you start reclaiming your energy from everything that drains your soul. Your work begins to change you, no longer chase validation through endless effort or meaningless performance. Instead, you start aligning your actions with your deeper purpose. You find that when you give yourself permission to say no to what feels wrong, the yes that remains carries more power, more clarity, and more heart. Each task becomes an extension of your authentic self, and that authenticity breathes new life into your creativity, focus, and confidence. Slowly, what once felt like work becomes an expression of meaning. Your body begins to follow this internal alignment. The stress and fatigue that came from self-betrayal start to dissolve. The tension you've carried in your shoulders, the restlessness that lived in your sleep, and the anxiety that whispered in your thoughts begin to quiet down. When you choose yourself, your nervous system finally exhales. Your body starts to heal because it no longer has to fight against your truth. This healing is not only physical, it is energetic. It is the direct reflection of spirituality at work within you, reminding you that inner alignment is the foundation of outer peace. Your relationships, too, begin to shift. When you live honestly, you stop seeking love through performance. You no longer attract those who feed off your compliance. You attract those who value your truth. Conversations deepen because you are no longer afraid of being misunderstood. You start to connect through honesty, not through pretending. Love becomes mutual, not manipulative. Friendship becomes real, not transactional. The energy that once went into keeping up appearances is now invested in building authentic bonds. This is the quiet reward of spiritual development, the unfolding of genuine connection born from integrity. As you evolve, the world mirrors that evolution. You start attracting experiences that match your new vibration. The projects that come your way feel purposeful. The opportunities that appear seem divinely timed. Even challenges begin to look different. Instead of seeing them as punishment, you see them as initiation, each one designed to strengthen your boundaries and deepen your self-trust. You no longer live a mechanical life driven by external expectation. You live a meaningful life guided by inner wisdom. And through all this, spirituality stops being an abstract idea. It becomes your daily practice, the way you speak, rest, decide, and move through the world. It is not about escaping reality. It is about infusing it with awareness. Spiritual development means learning to live in truth even when it's uncomfortable, choosing integrity over approval, and peace over perfection. You learn that the universe doesn't reward who you pretend to be. It responds to who you really are. So remember these lessons. Protect your energy by honoring your truth. Let go of what drains you, even when it's familiar. Speak honestly, even when your voice shakes. Rest without guilt, knowing recovery is sacred. And measure success, not by applause, but by alignment. Because when you finally choose yourself, the whole world shifts, not because it changes, but because you do. And from that shift, everything begins to fall into divine order. Do you feel the shift happening within you? If you do, declare it boldly in the comments. I am transforming, and my life is aligning with divine purpose. 6. The cost of not choosing yourself is a slow death. Every time you betray your truth, Every time you say yes when your soul is screaming no, a part of you quietly dies inside. Each forced smile that hides your pain, each moment you pretend to be fine just to keep the peace, takes you further away from your essence. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Yet most people live as fragments of themselves, imprisoned by the need for approval, terrified to disappoint others. Life becomes mechanical, flavorless, a performance where your true self is exiled behind masks of politeness and survival. But authenticity is oxygen for the soul. Without it, you don't live, you merely exist. You were not born to perform. You were born to be alive, to feel deeply, to embody your truth without apology. The pain you feel when you abandon yourself is your spirit's way of begging you to come home. Choosing yourself doesn't mean rejecting others. It means refusing to reject yourself. It is an act of courage, a declaration that your peace, your boundaries, your soul matter. There will never be a perfect moment to honor who you are. The time is always now. Every delay is a slow decay of your spirit. Jung taught that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you constantly ignore your truth, you let fear, guilt, and external validation run your life, and you mistake that chaos for destiny. But spiritual wisdom begins when you stop betraying your inner voice and start listening to it instead. That voice doesn't scream. It whispers. It guides. It knows. It's the compass of your higher self trying to lead you back to alignment, back to freedom. The moment you finally choose yourself, everything begins to shift. The world mirrors your new vibration. Opportunities align and relationships transform. You stop chasing people who drain your light because you now understand that your energy is sacred. You no longer apologize for your boundaries or your truth because you realize that peace is more valuable than approval. Choosing yourself means saying no when it's not right, walking away when your soul feels heavy, and loving yourself enough to protect your own energy. It's the turning point where you stop living reactively and begin living intentionally, where you exchange self-sacrifice for self-respect. The cost of not choosing yourself is slow death, death of joy, death of creativity, death of your divine connection to life itself. But the reward of choosing yourself is liberation. When you honor your truth, you stop betraying your soul. The numbness fades, the light returns, and you remember that being alive is not about existing. It's about expanding, creating, and becoming. And in that moment of deep remembrance, the universe responds. It opens doors that were once closed and aligns you with everything meant for your highest path. Because when you finally choose yourself, you don't lose the world, you transform it. Leave a like and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss content that helps you awaken and transform your life. Type in the comments, "I choose myself," and "I choose life." When you finally choose yourself, you stop waiting for the world to validate you, and instead, you begin to create the world you deserve. This is the moment when life starts to align with your truth, when opportunities, people, and miracles naturally gravitate toward your energy. Remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos filled with spiritual insights and transformative truths. Carl Jung's hidden truth: the psychology of people who are deep thinkers. Thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge. Carl Jung: have you ever felt like your mind runs deeper than most? As if you see layers in people and situations that others overlook. In today's video, Carl Jung's hidden truth: the psychology of people who are deep thinkers. We'll explore what it truly means to live with this kind of spiritual and intellectual depth, and how you can use it to transform your daily life into one of awareness, peace, and purpose. Take a moment to reflect. Do you consider yourself a deep thinker? Or are you still learning to understand your inner world? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and together, let's uncover the spiritual wisdom behind the mind of a true thinker. 1. The nature of deep thinkers. Deep thinkers are quiet observers who move through the world with a rare depth of awareness, existing not on the surface of life, but beneath it, where silence speaks and meaning hides between the lines. They process reality through reflection, intuition, and sensitivity, and what others overlook becomes, to them, a gateway to profound truth. For deep thinkers, every encounter is symbolic, every word has a vibration, and every experience carries a spiritual lesson. They live in a state of inner contemplation, where thinking is not an act of effort, but the natural rhythm of their soul. In the journey of spirituality and spiritual awakening, they embody the role of seekers, those who walk between intellect and intuition, constantly decoding the unseen order behind existence. In their inner world, thought is not mere logic. It is energy, alive and transformative. They perceive patterns that most people miss, the quiet synchronicities between events, the subtle emotions and voices, the mysterious timing of life. They look at a flower and see not only beauty, but impermanence. They witness a storm and sense the cleansing of the collective spirit. They observe human suffering and perceive the hidden seed of transformation. This depth of perception often isolates them because their awareness reaches beyond the ordinary. They don't crave noise or constant validation. Instead, they find nourishment in stillness, where divine wisdom whispers. Their solitude is sacred, not empty. It is the temple of insight, where consciousness awakens to its own infinite nature. Carl Jung described this path as the process of individuation, the unfolding of the self from the unconscious into awareness. For deep thinkers, this process happens naturally. They are drawn to question everything: why the world is as it is, who they are beyond the mask of personality, and how pain can lead to transcendence. Through these questions, they move closer to understanding the essence of the soul. They begin to see that thinking itself is a form of prayer, a dialogue with the divine intelligence that animates all creation. Their spirituality is not about worshiping an idea of God, but realizing the divine through awareness, through the simple act of noticing life deeply. Yet this path is not easy. The same mind that grants them depth also exposes them to the weight of overthinking, to the endless corridors of analysis that can lead to exhaustion or doubt. They often feel too much, too deeply, and the world's superficial rhythm can feel unbearable. But in this challenge lies their awakening. When they learn to balance the intellect with intuition, the analytical mind with the silent heart, their inner world becomes a source of light instead of heaviness. They realize that the goal is not to escape the mind, but to master its flow, to allow thought to serve wisdom instead of fear. This harmony transforms reflection into revelation, turning their mental power into a tool for creation, understanding, and compassion. Deep thinkers live as translators of energy, converting the invisible into words, art, and action. Their insights often carry the essence of universal truth because they think from the soul rather than the surface. When they speak, it is not to impress, but to illuminate. When they observe, it is not to judge, but to understand. Their life is an ongoing meditation on the interconnectedness of all things, a living dialogue between spirit and matter. They are dreamers who have awakened, thinkers who feel, and feelers who see. In every breath, they sense the pulse of the universe, reminding them that thought, when aligned with consciousness, becomes creation itself. 2. Inner world versus outer world. They live suspended between two dimensions, an inner world rich with thought, emotion, and endless questioning, and an outer world that moves too fast, too loud, too shallow to notice the depth beneath the surface. Their silence is not emptiness. It is a quiet storm of reflection. When they seem distant, it is not because they are uninterested, but because they are seeing beyond what others see. They are listening not only to words, but to the spaces between them, sensing meanings that hide beneath casual conversation. They inhabit a space where spirituality and psychology intertwine, where the search for understanding becomes an act of faith, and every insight is a step toward deeper spiritual development. In a world obsessed with noise, their calm presence is often misunderstood. They are not disengaged. They are deeply aware. Their thoughts unfold like galaxies, spinning around questions of purpose, truth, and human nature. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." For these deep thinkers, this is not just a quote, it is a way of living. They constantly turn inward, exploring the landscapes of their own minds with curiosity and courage. Their spirituality is not about escape or withdrawal, but about transformation, turning every silence into understanding, every thought into light, and every reflection into growth. The outer world, with its endless motion and constant distraction, can feel exhausting to those who dwell in such inner depth. Yet this contrast is what shapes them. They retreat not out of weakness, but to preserve clarity. Silence becomes their sacred ground, a place to recharge the spirit and realign with truth. In that space of stillness, they rediscover themselves and reconnect to something greater, the essence of life that moves quietly beneath all things. Their mind becomes a temple where awareness meets grace and where thought evolves into wisdom. If you have ever felt this way, torn between your inner depth and the world's demand for speed, you are not lost. You are awakening. The world may not always understand those who think deeply, but that misunderstanding is part of the spiritual path. To know yourself is to walk between worlds, the visible and the invisible, the external and the internal. Your reflection is not a retreat, but a return, a way to come home to your own consciousness. And within that sacred space between thought and silence, your true spiritual development begins, reminding you that the deepest truths are not found in noise, but in the quiet light of awareness. Have you ever noticed how your inner world shapes the way you see the outer world? If you've experienced this deep connection between your thoughts and reality, share your insight in the comments below so others can learn from your journey. If not, comment, "I will observe my inner world," and begin this transformative exploration with us today. 3. Psychological traits. Deep thinkers, as Carl Jung revealed through his spiritual wisdom, are individuals whose minds rarely rest. They are constantly analyzing, reflecting, and questioning their own emotions, motives, and perceptions. Their inner world is alive with meaning, symbols, and patterns that most people overlook. This heightened introspection gives them a deep awareness of their inner landscape, allowing them to understand not only what they think, but why they think it. Their ability to step outside their own mind and observe it is what Jung called metacognition, a rare skill that opens the door to profound insight, but also to inner conflict. For such people, thoughts are not just mental activities, but living energies that demand attention, exploration, and transformation. Inside their minds, the default mode network, the part of the brain active during rest and reflection, is constantly firing, weaving imagination, memory, and vision together like threads in an endless tapestry. This is why deep thinkers often get lost in thought. They see connections where others see chaos and discover meaning in moments others forget. This same creative mechanism, however, can turn against them, leading to cycles of overthinking and self-doubt. They may replay old memories, question every choice, or imagine infinite outcomes, not because they are indecisive, but because their mind refuses to settle for surface-level understanding. As Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." For deep thinkers, every inward gaze is an awakening, but awakening often comes with the price of solitude. Their perception of reality is not linear, but symbolic. They live between worlds, the outer one of routine and the inner one of meaning. They seek truth beneath appearances, essence beneath form, and purpose beneath pain. This makes them different, often misunderstood by those who live only on the surface. Deep thinkers may appear distant, but inside they are vividly alive. They need solitude, not as escape, but as nourishment. Silence becomes their temple, where ideas are born and emotions are purified. They communicate best not through small talk, but through honesty and depth, valuing conversations that touch the soul rather than skim the surface. Yet, this psychological intensity can be exhausting. Their sensitivity makes them empathic to others' emotions and energies, absorbing pain that isn't theirs to carry. Their compassion is both their strength and their weakness. Jung believed that every gift contains its shadow, and for deep thinkers, that shadow is emotional fatigue. To evolve, they must learn balance between thought and action, introspection and expression, solitude and connection. The mind is a powerful instrument, but when left unchecked, it can become a labyrinth. Jung's path of individuation teaches that true growth comes from integrating both the light and the dark within. Those who think deeply are spiritual explorers, disguised as ordinary people. They are not here to escape the world, but to understand it through the lens of consciousness. Their constant reflection is not a burden. It is the sign of a soul that refuses to live unconsciously. Their task is to transform analysis into awareness, awareness into wisdom, and wisdom into peace. And as they walk that path, guided by the timeless insights of Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom, they remind us that the mind's greatest purpose is not to think endlessly, but to awaken fully. 4. Emotional sensitivity and existential awareness. They experience emotions not as fleeting waves, but as vast oceans that echo through their entire being, touching everything they see and feel. When such souls awaken to spirituality, they begin to perceive life through a lens far deeper than ordinary perception. They don't simply overthink. They think existentially, exploring questions about purpose, consciousness, and the hidden fabric of truth that binds all existence. For them, every emotion is a portal, and every thought a seed of transformation. When others see a sunset, they see the divine hand painting impermanence. When others feel heartbreak, they see the sacred lesson of attachment and surrender. Their spiritual awakening is both a gift and a burden. The gift of seeing what others cannot, and the burden of feeling what others refuse to feel. This heightened awareness makes them wise, intuitive, and compassionate, yet it can also leave them feeling like strangers in a world that moves too fast and feels too little. They live in a constant dialogue between the heart and the universe, translating unseen energy into words, images, and meaning. Every silence speaks to them. Every encounter carries symbolism, and every pain holds a message waiting to be decoded. Such souls don't escape suffering. They study it. They dissect their own pain to understand the collective wounds of humanity, knowing that their depth has purpose. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Deep thinkers live this truth daily. They wrestle with their shadow, their inner child, their higher self, all parts of the psyche seeking harmony. Their spiritual wisdom grows not from avoiding chaos, but from embracing it, realizing that inner order only comes when one confronts the darkness without fear. Yet, this depth of awareness often isolates them. They crave authentic connections that mirror their inner truth, but most people are afraid of such depth. While the world chases distraction, they chase meaning. While others seek comfort, they seek understanding. Loneliness becomes their silent companion, not because they are unlovable, but because they vibrate at a frequency few can match. But in solitude, they find clarity. In silence, they discover communion with the divine. Their thoughts spiral not downward, but inward, leading them to a sacred realization that the journey of a deep thinker is not about escaping reality, but awakening within it. To think existentially is to live consciously. To feel deeply is to love courageously. And to walk this path of sensitivity is to embody the truth that spiritual awakening is not a destination, but an eternal unfolding of awareness. Do you feel deeply, sometimes more than words can express? If this message about emotional sensitivity and existential awareness resonates with your soul, declare it with courage in the comments below. I feel deeply, and I understand my purpose. 5. The gift and burden of depth. Their mind weaves connections between everything, turning silence into philosophy and memory into entire emotional landscapes that breathe with meaning. They are the kind of souls who can find patterns in the chaos, hearing the language of life in every subtle vibration. This rare gift makes them visionaries, the kind who think like Carl Jung or Leonardo da Vinci, seeing what others cannot see, feeling what others cannot feel. But such depth comes with weight, for when your perception runs deep, so does your pain. Every thought feels alive. Every memory lingers like a scent that never fades. You can walk through a quiet room and sense the emotions that once lived there, feel the energy of words never spoken, and understand what lies beneath what others call coincidence. This is the sacred blessing, and the heavy curse of depth in a mind that never stops connecting, interpreting, and remembering. You often find yourself lost between worlds, drifting through the inner universe of your thoughts while trying to stay grounded in a world that rarely understands such intensity. Nostalgia becomes your shadow, not because you live in the past, but because you hold on to the essence of every experience as though it were a fragment of eternity. When others forget, you remember. When others move on, you still feel the echo. And yet, this sensitivity, the same one that makes you misunderstood, is also the very thing that keeps your soul awake. It gives you empathy so profound that you can sense another's pain without a word. As Jung said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. You don't just think you feel reality in layers, transforming each emotion into understanding and every question into a doorway to deeper spirituality. Your mind can blend logic and intuition into one stream, merging science with art, reason with emotion, intellect with soul. But that same mind can also trap you, leading you to overanalyze every detail until beauty turns into burden. That is why spiritual development for deep thinkers is not about thinking more. It is about learning when to stop thinking and start being. It's about grounding yourself in the present moment, letting silence be a teacher instead of a storm. You must learn to walk between two worlds, the world of thought and the world of stillness, without losing yourself in either. Because even the deepest ocean needs the calmness of the shore. Your depth is not a flaw, but a frequency, a vibration that allows you to experience the universe more fully than most. The lesson is to let your mind serve your heart, not silence it. Let your thoughts be instruments of creation, not cages of confusion. When you allow your intelligence to flow through compassion and presence, your depth becomes light. You stop drowning in your emotions and begin to dance with them. You stop searching for meaning and begin to live it. And that is where true spirituality begins, not in knowing more, but in feeling life with the wholeness of your being. 6. Communication and empathy. You value precision in language and emotional truth because deep down, you feel words as energy rather than sound. Every conversation is like reading a symphony. You hear not only the melody of what is said, but also the silence between notes, the subtle rhythm of tone and body language, and the quiet tremor of what remains unspoken. This gift of empathy makes you emotionally intelligent and able to connect with others on a level most people never reach. Yet it also makes you highly sensitive to the smallest inconsistencies, the faintest dishonesty, or the shallow mask of superficial talk. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." You understand this truth deeply because each genuine conversation leaves a mark on you. It changes your energy, refines your perception, and teaches you something about the human soul. When you communicate, you don't just use words, you transmit presence. Your intuition allows you to feel someone's true emotional state before they even articulate it, and you naturally seek alignment between thought and feeling. You notice when someone says, "I'm fine," but their eyes reveal unease. You sense when laughter hides pain, or when confidence is only a disguise for fear. This ability is part of your spiritual wisdom, a rare awareness that sees beyond illusions and dives into essence. But with this gift comes responsibility. Because you can read between the lines, you must also protect yourself from being consumed by the emotions of others. Learning to observe without absorbing is an act of spiritual maturity, and it allows your empathy to remain a tool for insight rather than a source of exhaustion. You value honesty and emotional precision because they create safety. When people are authentic, your soul relaxes. When they lie or perform, your energy contracts instantly. This is not judgment, it's discernment. Carl Jung taught that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's why you listen so carefully. You are listening for the unconscious, the truth behind the words, the emotional fingerprint that reveals someone's inner landscape. You notice what others miss, the slight pause before a confession, the lowered tone before a truth too fragile to say aloud, and your empathy translates it into understanding. But this same sensitivity can make you a mirror for others' pain. And sometimes you carry feelings that aren't yours. The art, then, is to balance openness with self-protection. You can care deeply without losing yourself. You can listen with compassion while holding your own emotional center. Communication, for you, is not small talk. It is soul talk. It's a sacred exchange of energy that either nourishes or drains you. That's why you crave authenticity and depth. You are not interested in empty words or polite masks. You want presence, coherence, and truth. The moment language aligns with emotion, you feel harmony. The moment someone speaks from the heart, you feel trust. And when words and energy don't match, your intuition warns you that something is off. Your empathy is a reflection of your evolved consciousness. It's the bridge between your mind and your soul. But you must use it wisely. Speak with clarity even when it's uncomfortable. Honor your truth even when it challenges others. Let your words be instruments of peace, not weapons of defense. As Jung reminded us, who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Every honest conversation becomes a mirror for awakening, and every moment of truthful speech strengthens your emotional integrity. Precision in language is not about perfection, it's about respect for the human spirit. Through the alignment of words, emotion, and truth, you transform communication into connection, empathy into understanding, and sensitivity into the highest form of spiritual wisdom. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on mastering communication and empathy through the lens of Carl Jung. 7. Solitude, creativity, and healing. Solitude is their sacred retreat, the hidden garden of the soul, where silence breathes clarity and the noise of the world dissolves into peace. It is in these quiet hours that deep thinkers find renewal, for solitude does not imprison them, it liberates them. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." And within this awakening, solitude becomes the mirror that reveals the unseen layers of consciousness. Those who have walked the path of spirituality understand that solitude is not an absence of connection, but the birthplace of it. It is where the divine speaks in whispers, where thought becomes light and emotion becomes art. In the stillness, their creativity blooms like a secret spring, transforming inner chaos into beauty, pain into poetry, and confusion into clarity. Through art, writing, and reflection, they release what words cannot contain, turning wounds into wisdom and sorrow into strength. Each brushstroke, each word, and each note becomes a vessel for the soul's quiet revelations, a form of healing born not from avoidance, but from deep communion with truth. True healing emerges when they learn to balance thought and feeling, intellect and intuition, reason and empathy. It is not the suppression of the mind, but the transformation of it, a blending of awareness and emotion that gives birth to compassion. In the journey of spiritual awakening, intellect alone can dissect reality, but only feeling can illuminate it. When they allow their hearts to guide what their minds observe, understanding deepens into spiritual wisdom, and self-awareness becomes a living force of love. Healing, in this sense, is not about fixing the self, but about allowing the divine order within to restore harmony. It is when the deep thinker realizes that every struggle, every tear, and every silent night holds the seed of transcendence. Solitude becomes their teacher, showing them that the greatest art is the art of integration, the fusion of what they know and what they feel. They begin to live in balance, where logic does not overpower emotion, but complements it, creating an inner rhythm that mirrors the heartbeat of the universe. In that rhythm, they find serenity, for they no longer seek meaning outside themselves, but discover it within. Every moment of silence becomes a dialogue with the sacred. Every thought becomes a prayer. Solitude teaches them that healing is not an event, but a process, a continuous unfolding of awareness into compassion and of self-knowledge into grace. Through spirituality, they awaken to the understanding that solitude was never emptiness. It was the womb of their becoming, the divine space where intellect transforms into empathy and awareness blossoms into timeless wisdom. If this message resonates with your soul, take a moment to pause and breathe. True healing begins in silence, and creativity blooms in solitude. Comment below. I will meditate to affirm your journey toward inner peace and self-discovery. 8. Emotional complexity and humor. People with emotional complexity live in a world where feelings intertwine and coexist, joy, grief, and awe often appearing in the same heartbeat. They are not afraid to feel everything all at once because they sense the sacred balance between beauty and loss. To them, life is not divided into neat boxes of pleasure and pain. It is a tapestry where sorrow gives depth to happiness and laughter is born from the ashes of tears. This awareness reveals a rare spiritual intelligence, one that sees meaning even in the contradictions of existence. They understand that the soul grows not by avoiding pain, but by embracing it, and this acceptance becomes the essence of their spirituality and spiritual development. Their hearts carry the quiet wisdom that Carl once expressed. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Through this awareness, they learn to navigate the invisible terrain of emotion, discovering that to feel deeply is not a weakness, but a divine strength. Their humor, too, is not ordinary. It is a reflection of their depth. They laugh not because life is easy, but because they understand how absurd and beautiful it truly is. Their humor becomes a light that dissolves heaviness, a spiritual response to the chaos of existence. It is the kind of laughter that heals rather than hides, that acknowledges the pain, yet refuses to let it define them. In this way, humor becomes their quiet rebellion against despair, a reminder that even in the darkest hours, the soul can still choose joy. They use laughter not as an escape, but as a form of transcendence, turning awareness into lightness and sorrow, into art. Their jokes carry truth. Their smiles carry resilience. And behind every moment of levity lies the depth of someone who has seen the shadow and still chosen to shine. To such souls, emotions are sacred teachers. They do not suppress what they feel. Instead, they honor each emotion as a messenger from the divine. Joy teaches gratitude, sorrow teaches humility, and fear teaches faith. They understand that emotional integration is the path to spiritual awakening. That balance does not come from control, but from surrender. Their spiritual development thrives in this balance, the merging of light and shadow, laughter and tears, strength and vulnerability. They embody what it means to be fully human, yet spiritually aware, grounded, yet transcendent. Their presence comforts others because it is honest. They can sit with another's pain without the need to fix it, for they have learned that silence can heal more than words ever could. In a society obsessed with perfection, they embrace imperfection as the true form of grace. They know that to cry and laugh in the same breath is not confusion, but alignment with life's rhythm. Every emotion, whether heavy or light, is part of the divine conversation shaping their soul's evolution. Through this awareness, they remind us that spiritual growth is not about escaping the world, but about being fully present in it with humor, with depth, and with compassion. Their lives whisper a truth that words can barely hold, that in the dance between pain and laughter lies the soul's highest expression of love, and that emotional complexity is not chaos. It is the language of an awakened heart. 9. Love and connection. Deep thinkers love consciously and deliberately, never rushing into emotions they have not yet understood. They seek connection, not validation, and when they love, they do so with the depth of a soul that has walked through solitude and learned to find peace in its own company. For them, love is not a temporary thrill. It is a sacred exchange of energy, a mirror that reflects who they truly are beneath the surface. They do not crave constant attention. They crave resonance. They want to feel seen, not for what they show, but for what they silently carry within. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." And indeed, that transformation is what deep thinkers seek, the kind of love that changes who you are because it awakens what has been asleep inside you. Their love language is curiosity, attention, and understanding. They listen not only to your words, but to the pauses between them. They notice the tremor in your tone, the weight in your silence, and the meaning hidden behind what you choose not to say. Their love feels like stillness, not chaos. It is a calm presence that doesn't need to prove itself. They believe that real intimacy begins when masks fall away, when two souls meet without performance or fear. They are fascinated not by what you have, but by what shaped you. The stories behind your scars, the dreams you dare not speak, the pain that taught you compassion. This curiosity is not interrogation. It is reverence for your inner world, for the universe that lives inside your mind. Deep thinkers see relationships as mirrors of the self. Every connection is a chance to evolve, to confront one's hidden patterns, to transform unconscious pain into conscious awareness. Their love is not about possession or control. It is about expansion. They don't want to own you. They want to understand you. They don't want you to complete them. They want you to walk beside them as two whole beings growing together. Love, to them, is a spiritual awakening that teaches patience, surrender, and emotional honesty. It asks you to face your wounds and embrace your shadows, because only then can you truly love and be loved. As Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Deep thinkers know that love without self-awareness is just attachment, and attachment without understanding leads to pain. When they finally trust, they love entirely and profoundly. Their affection may not be loud, but it is constant, like a heartbeat that never stops. They offer loyalty that does not fade with distance, and presence that does not disappear in silence. They will not chase attention because their love is rooted in truth, not fear. They are slow to open their hearts because they understand the sacredness of emotional exchange. But once they do, they love as if it were their soul's calling. Their connection is not about drama or desire. It is about depth, alignment, and the meeting of two energies that bring peace instead of chaos. Through spiritual wisdom, they understand that true love is not a fire that burns. It is a light that guides. It does not demand. It inspires. It does not consume. It elevates. And when a deep thinker loves you, you are not simply loved. You are understood, seen, and awakened to the divine within yourself. Stay connected with our circle of deep thinkers by subscribing to Spiritual Wisdom. Here, we explore the hidden truths of the mind and heart, inspired by Carl Jung's timeless psychology. True deep thinkers carry a rare kind of light, one that sees beyond illusions and questions what most accept without thought. As Carl Jung taught, the greatest minds are those who explore not just the world, but the depths within themselves. If today's message helped you understand yourself on a deeper level, don't forget to like this video, share it with others who seek inner wisdom, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming insights into the soul and the mysteries of the human mind.